Hi, my name is Oswald Sobrino, and I'm the author of this book, Seneca and Roman Slavery Under Nero's Rule. And there's a portrait of the Roman Stoic philosopher Seneca. There's not a portrait, but a bust of the Roman Stoic philosopher Seneca, who lived in the first century AD. What's the origin of this book? It's based on the research I did in my doctoral dissertation in 2022 at the University of Florida. But a book is different from the dissertation, although based on the dissertation research, because the purpose of the book is to be accessible to the general public, to people outside my particular field. My doctorate or Ph.D. was in Latin and Roman studies as part of the classics department at the University of Florida. So the purpose of putting the dissertation in book form is to reach people outside classics, people who are not familiar with the Roman Empire and its society, or people who are not familiar with Seneca and Nero, and to present it in an accessible way. So, for example, in the dissertation, you have the original Latin that Seneca wrote in, quoted extensively. I don't do that here. I simply put the English translation. So it's accessible, it's meant for the general reader, but it's based on very rigorous and careful research for a PhD. Now, it says Seneca and Roman slavery, but the dissertation in one document also addressed Paul, as in St. Paul and Roman slavery. But I did not want to put that in one book. So there are two volumes, but each is independent. Although if you get volume 2, it's better as background to have read the book on Seneca first. Not essential, but better. So the dissertation becomes 2 books to make it more accessible. And that's what scholars try to do when they transform their dissertation research to a book for the general public, to make it accessible, more readable, more understandable for people outside this often arcane academic world with its often unique and very specialized customs about writing and the audience you're addressing. In a dissertation, your audience is your committee that is supposed to evaluate your work. But here the audience is the general public, the general educated public, but not a specialized educated public. So now let's get to the book. To give you a preview of the book, I will go with the introduction. This book is based, as I said, on a significant part of my 2022 doctoral dissertation completed at the University of Florida Department of Classics. The dissertation is available online at the University of Florida. I have written this book for both scholars and general readers. I will thus define terms that seem quite basic to specialists. This outreach to general readers is essential in my view if our work in the classics is to enrich society and to remind all citizens that reflecting on ancient culture and history is essential to the good life and to a good society. And reflecting on ancient culture and history is not merely of antiquarian interest within the ivory tower and its closed conferences. Why then Seneca, Roman slavery, and Nero? Browsing in a local bookstore or online today will remind you that Stoicism is still of great interest in facing the challenges and stresses of modern life. In Stoicism, Seneca remains one of our most eloquent, extensive, and readable sources. Slavery is also very much in our minds today when we see the tragedies of human trafficking, of slave labor, and of a prison system that some in the U.S. view as a legacy of American slavery. In addition, those interested in Stoicism and its emphasis on our common human nature cannot help but ask what led Seneca the Stoic to accept the legal Roman institution of ancient slavery. This question is at the heart of this book. How could Seneca the Stoic accept the institution of Roman slavery? This question is compelling because Seneca himself wrote eloquently about slaves as sharing our common human nature and as worthy of friendship. I argue that Nero, the emperor, as the political slave master of the Roman Empire, plays a decisive role in explaining Seneca's acceptance of Roman slavery. This argument is accessible to readers, even if they choose to skip my more technical chapter 3 on Seneca's metaphors for slavery. The metaphors of the way Seneca spoke about slavery are important in exploring his attitudes, but chapter 3 can get a bit complicated, and you can skip it and still get the main point of this book. Chapter 3, by necessity, addresses the counter-arguments and views of others in the academic community that differ from my own view that Seneca accepted household slavery due to his loyalty to Nero as his political slave master. So my thesis, my position, my contention is that Seneca accepted Roman slavery because of his loyalty to Nero, who was the political slave master of the entire Roman Empire. Seneca and Nero go together in Roman history. Seneca was the tutor and close political advisor of Nero. Unfortunately, Nero eventually suspected Seneca of engaging in a political conspiracy against him and ordered Seneca to commit suicide. Seneca's plight under the absolute domination and tyranny of Nero also reminds us of the dangers of current political authoritarianism in our world. We have then, in this book, an interesting and combustible mixture of Stoicism, of high Roman politics, and of one of the most notorious Roman emperors, as we consider why Seneca, a Stoic with such noble sentiments, he viewed slaves as sharing a common human nature with non-slaves, and he encouraged slave owners to become friends with their slaves and treat them well. Why did he accept Roman slavery? Most importantly, reflecting on ancient slavery leads us to reflect on our own modern forms of slavery. If this book can lead us to question our modern forms of enslavement, then I will be fully repaid for my efforts. So that's the introduction. So why did Seneca, this very noble Stoic with noble sentiments, a very admirable man, although some people thought he was not admirable because of his wealth, excessive wealth and conspicuous consumption, and because he was involved with Nero politically, his other side was very admirable. He emphasized morality. He emphasized the ideals of Stoicism, of living according to nature, of following reason, of not being over-attached to material goods and to power. Some people would call Seneca a hypocrite because he pursued political power, and he certainly pursued wealth and was fabulously wealthy in his time. So that judgment about Seneca is up to you to make. But my question is, why did he accept Roman slavery? Many have said, well, as a Stoic, he thought being enslaved was a matter of indifference, so it doesn't matter whether you were a slave or not. I argue that's not the case, that being free was something to be preferred and to pursued, and being a slave was something to be avoided. If you were stuck being a slave and had no way out, then Stoics would encourage you to make the best of the situation. But certainly a Stoic would not recommend someone to stay in slavery or to enter slavery voluntarily. A Stoic who's true to the tradition of living according to nature, living according to reason, and of seeking to live with preferred goods that make for a healthy, vibrant life according to reason, would never ask anyone to remain in slavery if they could get out of it. So there's the book. It's interesting. And I will also do a video on Paul and Roman slavery. And I'll speak to why Paul and Seneca go together. Thank you.